I never imagined a dinner with my son would turn into a heart-pounding race against time. I can still feel the sharp tingle of anticipation as we sat down at our favorite little restaurant. The smell of garlic and fresh herbs wrapped around us, whispering sweet promises of comfort and laughter. But that night, darkness loomed. The clinking of silverware felt almost foreign in the air. My heart raced. The laughter from nearby tables mixed with an unsettling quiet in my gut. Each second stretched like taffy. My son Jamie looked different. His usual sparkle was shadowed. His hands trembled slightly as he stirred his pasta, the fork moving as if it were participating in a slow-motion dance of dread. I wanted to ask, "What's wrong?" But the words choked in my throat. I saw his eyes dart towards the door, then back to his plate, a silent battle waging within him. I had always cherished our dinner times, my anchor to the soul of that boy. A time for stories, dreams, and warmth. But tonight felt like a storm brewing. The waitstaff moved silently around us, their faces painted with concern, whispers flitting through the dimly lit room like shadows. That's when I noticed the man at the bar, his gaze locked on us. He wore a dark leather jacket, one that seemed to swallow the light around him. I shivered. It felt wrong, as if he was an omen, a sign of something terrible about to unravel. Jamie's breath caught, matching the feeling in my chest. I reached for his hand, squeezing tightly, trying to ground us in that moment. A crash erupted from the kitchen, followed by a cascade of shrill voices. The air thickened. Panic bubbled in my chest. Jamie flinched, his eyes widening, reflecting a fear I couldn't ignore. The man at the bar straightened, a smirk creeping across his lips. It sent ice through my veins. What was happening? A frantic murmur rose among the other patrons. I could feel the tension zip through the dimly lit room like static before a storm. My heart hammered louder now. Were we safe? Questions stormed my mind as the chaos escalated. The lights flickered ominously and then went out. The restaurant plunged into darkness, like a deep abyss swallowing hope. I held my breath, feeling the silence wrap around us, thick and suffocating. Then, in that heavy quiet, I heard a voice breaking through the void. A chilling whisper that shattered everything. "It's time to pay the price." My skin prickled. I twisted to find Jamie, but he was already gone. A sinking realization hit me. I was alone in this chaos. My heart raced, and fear surged through me. Was it too late to save him? What had I unleashed? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The darkness wrapped around me like a heavy cloak, total and suffocating. I could feel the pulse of my heartbeat in my ears, drowning out the muffled yells that mingled with the panic outside. The world had narrowed down to this moment of desperate uncertainty. I was in search of Jamie, yet the restaurant felt like a maze with the absence of light. Every turn a challenge laced with the anticipation of fear. "Jamie," I called out, voice cracking with panic as I strained to pierce the darkness. No response. Just the scuffling of feet on tiles, the occasional panic-stricken shout. My palms were clammy, the cold sweat sticking my fingers together. But I had to move. I had to find him. I made my way towards where I believed our table was, feeling my way through an obstacle course of scattered chairs and displaced utensils. The darkness amplified my sense of isolation. In my mind, flashes of Jamie's smile surged, bursting through the shadows like flares, and yet those memories felt distant and cruel amidst this nightmare. Then I heard a sound, a small whimper. It came from behind the kitchen wall, faint but alive. My heart jumped at the possibility. It was Jamie's voice. Instinctively, I turned toward the sound, tapping into an energy I didn't know I had. "Jamie, I'm coming," I shouted again, urgency powering my trembling legs. The clamor surged again as another crash echoed through the restaurant, panic-inducing more chaos, but I pressed onward, the fighting spirit of a parent surging within me. I reached the edge of the kitchen doorway, and as I peered inside, The soft flicker of emergency lights bathed the space in a sickly hue. Broken pots lay strewn across the floor, and shadows flickered across the walls like dark ghosts. Suddenly, I felt a hand clench my arm. I jumped, turning sharply to see a familiar face covered in shock. It was Anna, a waitress I had seen countless times at this little eatery, her eyes wild with fear. "You shouldn't be here," she gasped, her voice laden with unease, and I could see the genuine concern etched across her features. "Get out. You have to get out now." "Where's my son, Anna?" I demanded, desperation tinged with authority. "I don't know." She took a deep breath, steadying herself. I heard something, a crash, and then her eyes darted to the back of the kitchen. Someone went into the storage room. I think they took him. Panic gripped me, the very idea sending chills down my spine. "What do you mean someone took him?" "Just go. You need to get out of here," she urged, her voice frantic. Just then the lights flickered back on, fighting against the shadows, revealing a scene drenched in chaos. Overturned tables, frightened patrons huddled in corners, but amidst it all, the ice-cold realization settled into my bones: they were still here. Whoever had taken Jamie. Fear coursed through me as I stepped further into the kitchen, Anna trailing closely behind, pleading for me to turn back. But I couldn't. Taking a deep breath, readying myself for whatever awaited, I pushed through the door to the storage room, forcing it open. It creaked on its hinges, the space beyond dimmed but revealing boxes piled high, the air thick with the sour scent of spilled inventory. I peered around, heart racing, calling out, "Jamie! Mom!" His voice erupted from behind a stack of crates, a mix of fear and relief tethering my heart to the sound. My feet propelled me toward the sound, every step closer amplifying my hope. "I'm here," I cried back, but just as I reached out to clear the boxes, a loud thud resonated from behind me, a harsh echo that sent a shiver down my spine. My breath hitched as I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. In the dim light, I saw the silhouetted figure of the man from the Burr, his smirk fully formed now, the shadows dancing across his face like a sinister mask. "You shouldn't have come here," he spoke, his voice dripping with malice. "Now you've sealed your fate. Get away from us," I shouted, thrusting my body protectively forward, ready to fight for my son, my heart hammering in a furious rhythm. But it was too late. The man stepped closer, and I felt a gust of cold air sweep through the lingering darkness, making my skin prickle with fear. "You're not the one calling the shots here, love," he hissed, his eyes glinting with something unholy. And then, just as he reached for me, the lights flickered again, this time pulsing in and out, the room oscillating between shadows and light. I could hardly breathe. The last sound I heard was Jamie's terrified voice, echoing through the cacophony, before the lights went out, completely plunging me back into darkness. The whisper lingered in my ears, "It's time to pay the price." The void enveloped me, a chilling embrace that muddied the air and instigated shadows to dance even closer. Focus narrowed, and the panic surged within me like a wild tide. "Jamie," I whimpered, forcing my voice through the tangled mess of desperation and fear. Silence answered, but I refused to accept it as final. The darkness wasn't a complete barrier. It felt charged, alive, filled with an unsettling tension that gnawed at my instincts. Then, an unexpected sound sliced through the suffocating silence, a small grunt. "Mom?" It was faint, wobbly. Hope ignited anew in my chest. "Jamie." I strained to see within the enveloping blackness, shoulders stiffening as I fought my way back toward the voice. "I'm coming, honey. Hold on." As I took unsure steps, my foot caught on something, a forgotten chair, I presumed. But it didn't matter. I couldn't waste time worrying about bruises. Every fiber of my being surged with the singular thought of my boy. I maneuvered around the remnants of the kitchen, feeling like I was navigating through a nightmare, one cautious step at a time. "Stand back." Anna's voice shattered the air again, but this time it was sharper, tinged with determination. I felt her nearby, her presence a flicker of support, even as chaos raged outside. "We need to barricade the door. Someone might be coming." Her urgency coursed through my veins. "Is Jamie safe?" I shot back, barely able to keep my rising dread in check. "We can't risk it. We have to move," she insisted, fear giving her voice an edge. I heard her wrestle with something heavy, dragging it across the floor. For a fleeting moment, We were united in our desperate attempt to protect what we loved the most, the safety of the innocent. But the barrier of uncertainty still loomed large. Suddenly, a beam of light erupted through the darkness, illuminating the back of the kitchen where I had hesitated only moments before. The sudden brightness revealed the man I feared, now lurking just beyond the threshold. His features distorted through the shifting light, and it sent a shiver racing down my spine. "You think you can hide from me?" he taunted, a cruel smile stretching across his face. The shadows clung to him like shrouds, giving him an air of malevolence. "No," I gasped, stepping instinctively forward. Just then, destiny intervened in the form of a fire extinguisher, momentarily forgotten yet now an unexpected ally. I snatched it from below the counter, my hands trembling but resolute. "Stay behind me," I yelled at Anna, my heart pounding louder than the chaos outside. "You're insane. You can't confront him." Her voice trembled, uncertainty mingling with disbelief. I shook my head, breathing heavily as an endless pool of anger and helplessness fueled my resolve. "He's not taking Jamie from us." With trembling fingers, I lifted the extinguisher, my aim feeling both unsteady and unwavering. "Stay away." The man merely chuckled, swinging his arm as if to disarm me with his confidence. "What will you do with that? Spray me? You're just a desperate mother, lost in the dark." My heart lurched as Jamie's cries echoed once more, pulling me between sheer terror and a deeper resolve. With each moment that passed, inches felt like miles. I couldn't let him down. "Get away from Jamie," I shouted, the confidence in my voice stark against my insides that felt ready to explode. From behind me, Anna shouted again, "He's coming. We need to go." But I didn't have time to weigh the options. In one sudden movement, I dove toward the wall of darkness where I sensed Jamie could be. I grasped the extinguisher tightly, feeling the cool metal imprint against my sweaty hands. "Mom, I'm scared." His voice broke through again, piercing the fog of impending dread. "I know, baby. I promise I'm right here," I yelled back, putting all my energy into unearthing my son from the yoke of fear surrounding him. The urgency propelled my feet forward until I broke into a run, hand outstretched, searching through the bay of crates and haunting shadows. Just as I felt the faint softness of his sweat-slicked hair, a sudden crash spun me around. The man pushed through the darkness, revealing a chilling grin that sliced through the light. "You really thought that would work?" My breath caught in my throat, heart rattling against my ribs. "Mom, help!" Jamie's voice rose above the chaos, and I turned back, realizing the man was inching his way toward my boy. Rage surged through me, hot and relentless. I couldn't lose. Not now. Not ever. But before I could act, Anna leaped forward, grabbing a heavy skillet from nearby. "Get away from him." With perfect precision, she swung and sent the man staggering back, momentarily stunned. "Run!" she screamed at me, but just as I directed my attention back to Jamie, I caught sight of something reflected in the clammy darkness. It was a gleam, a knife, darting straight towards us like a bolt of light. "Jump!" I shouted just as the world exploded again in shouts and chaos, plunging me deeper into panic and uncertainty. The knife struck, a flash of danger extending the darkness, consuming everything that I had fought to reach. I stood frozen for a heartbeat, caught in that suffocating moment where everything hung in the balance. In that split second, fear collided with hope, but the outcome remained shrouded in dark uncertainty. "Mom!" Jamie cried again, but the weight of despair was an anchor pulling me into the depths. I was torn, caught between fierce love and the insatiable grip of dread. And then, in the heart of chaos, the possibility of betrayal shimmered. Was Anna here for Jamie's safety? Or was there a deeper connection chasing after hidden motives? Time slowed. Dread enveloped me like the creeping shadows. The final truth loomed large, and the darkness felt like it was closing in for the kill. The darkness wrapped around me like a shroud, thick and suffocating. Every heartbeat echoed in my ears, a desperate rhythm fueling my steps as I fought against the tempest of fear swirling inside me. With Jamie's cries still ringing in my mind, I caught Anna's eye, her fierce determination refusing to flicker, even as the knife's trajectory cut through the air like a wisp of dread. In an instant, chaos erupted. The man reeled back, his stoic facade momentarily shattered as Anna swung the skillet again, this time with a ferocity that took even me by surprise. As the weight of the frying pan connected with him, I felt a flicker of hope ignite the air around us, if just for a moment. But then reality crashed down again. For every moment we spent fighting, we were still trapped in an unforgiving, dark abyss, and Jamie was still vulnerable. "Mom, please." Jamie's voice broke through the tension, laced with fear and urgency. I could feel its magnetic pull, a tether to the love I had fought so hard to protect. Before I could respond, the man, momentarily stunned, regained focus and lunged forward again as Anna dropped the skillet, panting with exertion. There was an intensity in his eyes that chilled my unknowing glint that sunk deep into my gut. He was no longer just a silhouette of evil. He was a relentless hunter closing in on his prey. Out of sheer instinct, I surged toward Jamie's voice, my legs pushing through the weight of uncertainty. My hand grazed against another crate, the rough wood grounding me just enough to know I needed to move faster, to be there for him before it was too late. "Keep calling for me, sweetheart. I'm almost there," I shouted, hoping against hope he would feel my presence guiding him. From behind me came Anna's fierce resistance, shouting orders that bounced desperately off the walls. "We need to trap him. Stay together," she yelled, but my mind was laser-focused on one thing. "Jamie. Hold on him." Suddenly, a scream cut through the air, high and piercing. It was Anna. I whipped around with panic surging anew, only to find her grappling with the man, his hands desperately trying to secure her throat. The sight ignited a firestorm within me, an instinctual rage that knew no bounds. With every ounce of strength I had, I lunged toward them, the fire extinguisher gripped tightly in my hands. "Get away from her," I screamed, unleashing a powerful spray of foam that enveloped him like a white cloud. The man's surprise was palpable, his grip on Anna faltering as he stumbled back. But instead of letting go, he released a dark laugh that sent chills down my spine. "You think this is going to save you?" he bellowed, wiping at his eyes, his expression twisted with malice. Anna broke free then, stumbling back toward me, her breath ragged but her resolve unwavering. "We have to move now," she urged, but it still felt like the walls were closing in around us relentlessly. "Where's Jamie?" Panic gripped me as I scanned the shadows like they were deep water currents, hoping to catch some glimpse of my boy. Each second felt like an eternity, filled with uncertainty, every shadow morphing into a new worst fear. "He's behind that table," Anna pointed, her voice strained but filled with undeniable urgency. The table loomed like a fortress of safety, but its distance felt vast. Crimson threads of dread twisted in my gut as I darted forward, heart racing. I could see Jamie's small figure crouched beneath, the glint of tears shimmering on his cheeks. "Mom," he whimpered, his voice choked with fear. "I am here. Just hold on." The impending doom felt like a weight on my shoulders, but knowing he was so close reignited the fire I needed. As I approached the table, ready to pull him out of the shadows, a horrible sound reverberated through the air, a loud snap, like a twig breaking beneath a heavy foot. "No!" A voice reverberated from within the dark. I spun around just in time to see the gleam from the knife re-emerge, aimed straight at me. And then, as if time had completely stood still, a letter slid across the floorboards, stopping just at my feet. Confused, I bent down to pick it up. The ink was fresh, the letters blurry through the tears that had begun to well in my eyes. "You have no idea what you're unleashing. This isn't over." My heart sank as I glanced back at Anna, then at the man who now stood grinning, his confidence seeping into every crack of the darkness around us. "You're playing a dangerous game," he sneered, and just as the warning bells erupted in my mind, a second figure, another ghost from my past, emerged from the deep shadows, encroaching upon us. Time seemed to thicken. All the confusion swelled, the echoes of betrayals danced dangerously in the distance, and the promise of safety felt like a distant dream. I realized with relentless clarity, this moment could fracture us forever, and the resolution I so desperately sought lay just out of reach. The relief of finding Jamie, the potential of betrayal, every emotion entwined thickly as we stood on the precipice of the unknown. The man grinned wider, a conqueror savoring his victory, and the air turned heavy with dread. The chaos roared ever louder, the knife still clasped firmly in his hand, and just then, Jamie's plea shattered the silence one last time. "Mom, please." Where hope had stood moments ago now teetered on the edge of despair, and I had no idea how deep the shadows were willing to plunge. The air grew thick with a tension that felt suffocating, smothering the flicker of hope that had once dared to live. I stood frozen, caught in a moment that threatened everything I cherished. The shadows morphed cruelly, as if delighting in our fear, and the echo of Jamie's plea, tinged with desperation, slashed through me like a blade. I could almost feel the weight of his small frame curling toward me from under the table, like a tiny bird seeking refuge in a storm. "Stay back!" I shouted, a raw edge to my voice, but the confident sneer of the man drew me deeper into a nightmare I had never imagined. My heart raced as I fought the urge to step back, clinging to the belief that I could reach Jamie if only I could keep him in my line of sight. The second figure that shadowed him, a woman with piercing eyes and a familiar face, sent a tremor down my spine. "Sophie?" I breathed, disbelief wrapping around the name like a vice. Memories cascaded back. Days spent laughing and dreaming, wrapped in the joy of naive youth, only to be shattered by choices that had led her down a dark path. I could scarcely reconcile the girl I once knew with the stranger who now stepped forward, confidence radiating through a glacial smile. "Long time no see," she said, voice laced with a mocking sweetness. "Get away from him!" I screamed again, my focus swinging between Jamie and the two figures that loomed near. Anna moved to my side, her expression fierce, yet the anxiety pooled in her eyes revealed the fragility of our shared strength. "Jamie, listen to me," Anna called, adding an unexpected calmness through her fear. "You need to stay exactly where you are. Okay? Keep quiet, and we'll get you out of this." But the glint in Sophie's eyes, that mix of pleasure and malice, made it clear that whatever game was unfolding, we were mere pieces on her board. "You think you're so brave, don't you?" she said, voice dipping into a conspiratorial whisper. "But bravery only serves to ensure your downfall." Yes, if to punctuate her words. The man stepped closer, his knife glinting under the fractured light. "You can't win this fight," he echoed, voice steady, the confidence pouring from him like venom. "You don't know what I can do." Yet within this pit of despair, something strange flickered in my chest, a bond within the chaos. As if Anna and I were twins across time and space, hearts aligned in our need to protect the one thing that mattered most. An ember of defiance sparked deep inside me. "We would do anything for him," I said, voice shaking but resolute, desperate to anchor my resolve. The man let out a sardonic laugh. "Anything? Even in the face of certain doom?" His eyes bore into mine, searching for the flicker of doubt, reveling in the darkness he sought to spread. Behind him, Sophie's presence danced with a palpable energy, her movements fluid like oil, ready to disrupt any last vestiges of hope. "Listen, it's your turn to feel trapped," she purred, and in that moment, understanding crashed down on me. They weren't just here to instill fear. They had a plan, a cruel symphony orchestrated from the shadows we had long tried to escape. "Run!" I suddenly yelled, panic igniting within me as I looked back at Jamie, the urge to protect him overwhelming. "Get under the table." I was unprepared for the depths of dread that this command would plunge us into, but I had to believe if we could get him out of sight, we might stand a chance. A quick glance back confirmed Jamie was trying to follow orders, but he hesitated, eyes wide as he looked between me and the looming chaos. My heart shattered at the sight, a silent plea woven into his fearful gaze. I inched closer, heart racing. "It's okay, baby. You're safe." But the malevolent laughter from the man stopped my heart cold. "Oh, this is rich. What do you think you'll accomplish by hiding him? You can't escape what's inside you." He took a step closer, narrowing the distance, every stride a slow, deliberate move toward power. In that moment, Anna moved. She sprang forward, eyes ablaze with fierce determination. "You will not lay a hand on him," she shouted, and as if in a choreography we had rehearsed for years, I felt the pull of her resolve. But before I could fully comprehend the shift, a sudden crash echoed, a sound that reverberated through the air like thunder breaking across the sky. A nearby shelf toppled over, sending a cascade of items spiraling through the air. One item, a sharp shard of glass, embedded itself dangerously close, skimming past Anna's ear. The mix of shock and panic ignited, and that collective gasp seemed to drain the air from the room, leaving only silence pregnant with terror. The man and Sophie stumbled for balance, their cruel intentions momentarily disrupted. In that heartbeat of upheaval, hope flickered once more, a chance born from chaos. Would we be able to harness it? As I sprinted towards Jamie, an instinctual surge pushing me forward like a tide, I felt the weight of uncertainty bearing down. The distance felt unfathomable, the shadows crawling closer, daring me to falter. "Mom, be careful." Jamie's urgent whisper sliced through me like a lifeline, a tether that pulled me closer to him, and I felt an electric jolt between us, a bond thicker than blood, fusing our spirits in that moment of imminent danger. And just as I reached for him, to pull him from the clutches of darkness, a piercing shout rang out behind me, an unexpected revelation that twisted my heart anew. "Don't you dare step 1 foot closer. I have what you've been searching for." Sophie's voice reverberated, her next words curling like smoke into the air. "In fact, it's right here." The possibility hung in the air, coiled like a spring, and suddenly I was faced with a dilemma beyond comprehension. My world teetered dangerously, caught between salvation and doom, a fragile line drawn where hope and despair once intertwined. As I turned to face her, the flicker of determination reignited within me. Something in her eyes told me more than just confusion. She had something that could change everything. And yet, the danger remained hanging perilously over us, stitched together by the threads of fate. "Don't be tempted by her lies," Anna shouted, a plea pressing through the din of my racing thoughts. But Sophie smiled, that knowing smile that ignited every doubt and fear. "No," I thought, gripping Jamie's hand tighter, trying to create a barrier between us and the storm brewing around. Whatever deception they had, we were more than this moment, weren't we? Just as I found ground beneath my resolve, darkness surged forth, the knife aimed deadly in its intentions, and I realized with despairing clarity, I had to choose. The pulse of fear echoed in the silence that followed Sophie's revelation, the weight of her words heavy enough to draw a taut line between hope and dread. My heart thudded in my chest, a relentless drumbeat urging me into action, and yet I felt paralyzed, teetering between the need to protect Jamie and the insidious temptation to uncover what the enemy held. "Mom!" Jamie's small voice broke through the chaos, snapping me back to the terrifying present. His grip on my hand was frail, yet the strength of his eyes stoked the embers of determination within me. "No!" I spat, teeth gritted, words spilling out like a defiance against the universe. I could not let Sophie's lure grip me. "Whatever it is, it's a trap." My voice rose, fierce with rejection. "Is it though?" Sophie retorted, tilting her head, a mocking glint in her eyes. "You never thought to ask what lies beneath, did you? What I have could change everything for you." "What do you mean?" I demanded, desperation creeping in, my heart stitched with threads of anger and fear. But as I pressed against the walls of our fortress built with fleeting moments, I couldn't ignore the truth. Curiosity clawed its way to the surface. "No," Anna interjected fiercely, stepping in front of me like a human shield, protective and fierce. "We won't fall for your games, Sophie." But it was too late. The doubt had been planted, seeds of confusion sprouting roots into my thoughts. "What do I have to lose?" I whispered under my breath, wrestling with the notion that maybe Sophie did possess something crucial. Something I had fought so hard to find out. In that moment of indecision, the tension snapped like a frayed cord. The man lunged towards us with the primal roar that shattered the brief silence. I managed to push Jamie beneath the table just in time, but my own instincts faltered. The world slowed, and in that split-second decision, I felt the darkness creeping closer, devouring our carefully woven sanctuary. "This way," Anna shouted, pulling me back with a surge of urgent energy. We stumbled toward the narrow space between the wall and the table stacked precariously with broken porcelain and crumbling memories. There was barely enough room for the three of us, yet the warmth of Jamie's small body was palpable, a reminder of what we fought for. "Mom, I don't want to hide," Jamie cried, fear laced in his voice, a sharp contrast against the tumult that threatened to consume us. "I want to help. I want to be brave." The ache in my heart tightened painfully. Brave he was indeed. A resolve began to unfurl within me that I couldn't suppress, even under the weight of crushing despair. I leaned down, brushing his hair out of his face. "You are brave, but right now we need to stay safe." I met his eyes, searching for the flicker of trust that had always been between us. But before I could pull him close again, a sudden crash amplified the electricity in the air. I turned to see Sophie swiping at Anna, a gleam of silver intent sparkling in the dim light, a malevolent smile twisting her face as she attempted to breach our defenses. "You think you can hide from this? I know all your secrets. I know what you fear the most." The words wrapped around me like chains, pulling at forgotten memories until recognition slammed into me. My own voice cut through the chaos, trembling yet fierce. You're not invincible. You're just a scared little girl beneath all of this, hiding behind that mask. Sophie faltered, the feigned bravado cracking for just a moment, revealing hints of the girl I once knew, the one who had laughed with abandon and chased dreams like shooting stars. Yet as quickly as it appeared, the mask returned, her expression hardened, and she gestured to the man beside her. Kill the distraction, and I'll handle the rest. As if choreographed, he lunged at Anna, the glint of intent flashing in his eyes. I scrambled to stand, desperation propelling me forward as I screamed a warning. Anna, look out! The world erupted into chaos. I could see Jamie's face pale, fear tracing every feature as he witnessed the danger unfold before him. No! I cried, the shout bursting forth like a caged animal fighting for freedom. But in the whirlwind, the moment of impact resounded like an echo through time. I could only watch in horror as Anna's defensive maneuvers brought her face to face with the threat. Time slowed, every heartbeat echoing like a drum, and then a flash of movement caught my eye, a shard of porcelain spinning through the air like a comet aiming for destruction. Anna! I shouted, a howl of helplessness spilling from my lips. But just before it could strike, a surprising twist took place. Jamie crawled out from his hiding spot, an unexpected surge of bravery driving him forward. He threw his small frame against Anna, a genuine act of courage that sent chills racing through me. The porcelain shard shattered against the wall behind them instead, the remaining shards flying like confetti into the air, and I stood frozen, paralyzed by the impossibility of his actions. He had tried to save her. My son had chosen to put himself in danger for someone else. The depth of his love and bravery flooded my heart with warmth, even as fear clenched at my throat. The atmosphere became electric, shifting wildly as the energy in the room changed. Laughter erupted from Sophie, wild and cruel. Touching. But it's too late to save her, child. In that moment, a deeper truth clawed at me. Had I brought Jamie into? Joy and laughter had always lingered between us, but now survival felt distant, a mere dream overshadowed by betrayal and darkness. The stakes had never been higher, and it was all spiraling out of my control. Before I could form a cohesive thought, a new realization slashed through me, a dagger of clarity. This was a game, one that had been directed at my heartstrings from the start. If there's one thing I know, Sophie, it's that love will always outweigh your hatred, I declared, my voice steady, matching the intensity of my resolve, drawing strength from Jamie's bravery. But just as a sliver of triumphant hope ignited within me, Jamie's determination faltered, his eyes darting between Anna and Sophie. In that split second, I saw the confusion etch into his face, the fear that maybe our love wasn't enough. And then came the chilling sound of a footstep behind me. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach, but it was too late. I had pushed my entire family to the edge, and now the ground crumbled beneath us as the true master of this twisted game revealed even darker intentions. A figure emerged from the darkness, a face I had never expected to see again. Did you really think you could escape me? The voice smirked, cruel and familiar, a puppet mastering the chaotic strings that bound us all. The room seemed to close in around me as the voice washed over us, a wave of recognition crashing against my resolve. There, standing under the flickering lights, was a specter of my pasta face that ignited memories I had buried deep, a figure I had tried desperately to forget. Ethan, my estranged brother, stood smirking, the glow of the dim light softening the cruelty etched into his features. How could you? I breathed, my voice barely above a whisper. Behind me, Anna's gasp cut through the air, and I felt Jamie's small body trembling beside me, his innocent bravery suddenly replaced by a gut-wrenching fear. Ethan stepped further into the light, his presence heavy with the weight of their shared blood. You thought you could outrun your family's legacy, didn't you? But here we are, just like old times, chaos unfurling around a dinner table. Every word he spoke was a jagged knife, slicing straight into the heart of our fragile moment. I had always feared he would return, a dark shadow from our childhood that seemed to seep into our lives just when we found a hint of peace. What do you want? I managed, gathering what little strength remained amid the tumult. What every family member wants, he sneered, gesturing dismissively toward Jamie. To protect our own. He paused, his gaze now fixated on my son, a predatory curiosity glimmering in his eyes. Your little hero here has quite the spark, doesn't he? So full of hope, yet so naive. Stay away from him. I shrieked, the instinctual protectiveness surging fiercely as panic shot through my veins. My heart raced, second by second. Ethan had always delighted in the torment of those I loved. Anna positioned herself between Jamie and Ethan, a shield formed of bravery wrapped in fear, yet she too looked shaken as the threat of my brother bore down upon us in palpable waves. Every decision you make from here on out, every lie you utter, it brings you closer to the truth, Ethan remarked, throwing Sophie a satisfied glance. They'll come for you, you know. They want a reckoning. The reckoning you started. I snapped, each word thrusting against the memories woven into our tainted tapestry, a lifetime steeped in chaos, betrayal and family drama I had desperately tried to protect Jamie from. Everything I do, he grinned, I do for your good. You and I are connected, after all, whether you like it or not. The dissonance in his tone sent chills down my spine. He spouted words of twisted affection that masked a deeper rot within him. I could feel the pieces of hope I'd clung to, with fragile sense of protection I had built around Jamie beginning to crumble like the walls of our once safe haven. But just as despair crept closer, Jamie's small, trembling voice broke through the thick tension, his eyes wide and heartstrong. I'm not afraid of you, he declared, the words fueled by the purity of his innocence, a light flickering defiantly against the encroaching shadows. The room fell silent, his declaration hanging in the air like a fragile monument to hope. In that moment, I saw not just a boy but the embodiment of everything I had fought for, the driving force behind my relentless search for safety. Oh, but you should be, Ethan replied, his tone cold and dangerous, narrowing the distance between us. Fear is the only way to survive, little one. Your mother should have taught you that. The weight of his words pressed down on me, triggering memories of my own childhood, a time wrapped in his manipulation and darkness. The past threatened to engulf me, but Jamie stepped boldly into the fray yet again, his small figure unwavering. Mom loves me, he said fiercely, shaking off the shadow of doubt from his spirit. That's stronger than fear. My heart swelled at his unwavering faith in our bond, but Ethan's laughter reverberated through the air, an echo from the abyss. Ah, the puppy love of a child. But it won't protect you. Love can be twisted, you see. It turns into weapons that cause destruction. Suddenly, I found myself caught in the web of connections spun by my familiar place where love mingled with manipulation, a dangerous cocktail that could drown not just Jamie, but everyone I cared for. I had to break the cycle, to shield him from the horrors that stirred in Ethan's gaze. A child's heart doesn't bend to darkness, Ethan, I declared, grounding myself against the chaos. Not while I live and breathe. I won't let you take him. But even as I spoke the words, I could feel a tremor of uncertainty creeping into my commands. What if my resolve wasn't enough? What if the darkness had already seeped too deep? The flickers of hope that had sparked anew were now dimming, hovering dangerously close to extinction. Without warning, the entire atmosphere shifted as Anna took a step back, uncertainty forcing her shoulders down, and then it happened. The tension fractured, and Sophie lunged toward Jamie, a snarl etched into her face, a whirlwind of vengeance unleashed. Enough of this, she howled, arms outstretched like fanged claws, forcing the air from my lungs. The desperate instinct to protect swelled to a fever pitch. Step aside, Ethan. And just like that, it was chaos unleashed. My heart pounded as Jamie darted to the side, his small frame skirting dangerously close to the turmoil unfolding. I locked eyes with him, fear and determination crashing together within me. Jamie, run. But the urgent tremor of my voice was swallowed by the cacophony around us as they collided, the clash of past and present, love and hatred. It was all spiraling out of control. And in that haunting moment, just as Jamie hesitated, caught between my plea and the chaos unfolding, I realized something darker lay woven in this family tapestry. Secrets, not only my own but also his, craved release, a truth hidden beneath layers of fear, one he might not be ready to embrace. Then, just before the world shattered with an unspeakable climax, I caught a glimpse of something lying behind Ethan, a glint of metal peeking into our tight grip on fate, something I had never wished to see again. Jamie, hold on tight, I shouted, instinct driving my veins as time twisted. I lunged forward, ready to protect him at all costs, but not before I saw Ethan's smile turn for all, a glimmer of triumph signaling that this was only the beginning. I never imagined this dinner would spiral us into an irreversible fate, and in the midst of spiraling chaos, The truth poured out like a torrential rain. The revelation was undeniable. Ethan was not alone. The world around me faded as I processed Ethan's words, the double-edged blade of his revelation slicing through the din of chaos. The flicker of metal had left my heart racing, 1,000 thoughts colliding within me, each one striking like thunder. Just as I turned back to Jamie, my instinct gripping my chest, I felt the familiar tether of fear tightening around my throat. "Mom, what's happening?" Jamie asked, confusion lacing his voice, a tremor that echoed my own rising panic. "Stay close," I urged, scanning the room for any glimpse of salvation amidst the chaos that enveloped us. Anna had stepped back, merging her surprise with hesitation, while Sophie and Ethan clashed, a tempest of pent-up anger and longing erupting from their encounter. Then I saw a brief flicker of movement behind Ethan, a figment of my darkest imagination shaping into truth as another shadow stepped forward from the obscurity of the room, revealing himself with an air of menace. Lucas, my father. He emerged with the same cruel smile that had once haunted our family gatherings, a grin that masked the feverish thirst for power and control that coursed through the veins of our bloodline. I gasped, horror swallowing my voice as his presence crashed over me like icy waves. Ethan wasn't alone. He had resurrected the puppet master who had once orchestrated our misery. "Looks like the reunion's complete," Lucas chimed, a mockery of joy spilling from his lips. "Isn't this delightful? Just like old times, bickering about love and loyalty, the very essence of our family charm." "Get away from my son," I shouted, summoning every ounce of strength from the wellspring of my heart, lacing courage into my voice. "You're not welcome here." The words felt like shards of glass cutting through the air, breaking the hard mold of tradition that had so long defined us. "Quite the righteous display, aren't we?" Lucas returned, his tone thick with disdain, inching closer, fingers twitching as if ready to grope for control yet again. "You've turned your back on everything, darling. But I'm here to remind you that the chains of family run deep, binding tighter than you could ever imagine." I could sense Jamie's fear heightening again, bolting through the cracks like a sudden thunderstorm. "Mom, who are they?" His voice trembled, echoing the boy he once was, innocent, trusting, full of wonder. They're part of our past, Jamie. You don't have to worry. Just stay with me." My voice faltered as I saw the shadows loom larger, the darkness threatening to consume everything we cherished. "Stay away from him, Lucas," Anna yelled, her bravery sparking something within me, igniting a brilliance of hope against the gathering storm. "He's just a kid." "A child? Yes, but bearing the weight of your legacy," Lucas replied, his eyes glinting ominously. "You should thank us. We're here to prepare him for what's coming. The truth can be liberating, after all." Fear and disbelief twisted in my gut as I pieced together his intentions. They weren't just here for malicious pleasure. They sought to ensnare Jamie, to weave him into the dark fabric of our shared history. My heart began to race, not just for myself but for my son, whose world was swirling dangerously close to the brink of darkness. "Jamie, no. You don't have to listen to them," I cried, dread surging as I caught a glimpse of his eyes held not just innocence but burgeoning awareness, the dawning realization of an inherited darkness. It was a battle of wills unfolding between generations, a wrestling for a fate that could still shift. But just then, I felt a fluttering surge inside me, a whisper of determination that roared against the chaos. "You're stronger than this, Jamie. Remember how we always..." But the momentum of the room had spiraled out of control as Sophie and Ethan clashed again, their anger manifesting in a dangerous dance of wills. In a flash, I was torn away from Jamie, my protective instinct shoving me forward, forcing me to stand between him and the chaos breeding behind me. "Protect him," I shouted back at Anna desperately, my heart lodging like a beast in my throat. "Get him out to safety." The fire illuminating Sophie's features reflected the battle within. With every movement, I saw the walls of our discord crumbling, tethering our fates closer together. Ethan's smirk had vanished, replaced by fierce determination as he fought against Sophie, his own blood. Meanwhile, Lucas smiled with unholy delight, and I felt the wind shift. My heart raced harder as my instincts kicked in with sharper clarity. Just then, the glint of metal I had noticed earlier. Ethan's knife was now hovering in his palm, a twisted metal extension of his rage, aimed toward Jamie. I bellowed, a fierce roar echoing as I mustered every fiber of my being, sacrificing my own safety in a desperate bid to break through. Stay behind me, Jamie. You're not part of this madness. Ethan turned, his eyes shadowy but fueled by aggression, and in that moment the world shifted. A breath hung precariously in the air as if all time held its breath along with the piercing scream of truth that came next. Your actions decide his fate, sister. This is where love becomes a weapon. Ethan shouted, and in his eyes, I could see the embodiment of darkness yearning for manifestation, ready to strike. With every passing heartbeat, the walls of hope teetered in a delicate balance. Jamie, vulnerable and strong, remained glued to my side, challenging the very fabric of the impending storm swirling over us. And just before I could take another step, a voice rang out from the shadowy corners of my fear, clutching my heart and sending tremors through the chaos. There's something you've all overlooked. The words breathed life into an unexpected moment. An arrival of whispers that coursed through the air like an electric pulse. Someone was about to step forward through the melee. A figure leaned into the fray, eyes rich with solemnity, and with that darkness forged within, it became clear we were not alone in this battle. I looked towards the voice, seeking salvation amidst the shards, ready to confront whatever truth lay ahead, knowing that our fates were intertwined in ways unimagined. As I faced the gathering storm, dread mixing with a flicker of hope, I stumbled upon a deeper revelation, a truth within our family that held the promise of light or the potential for an even darker fate. The swirling chaos that had enveloped the room faded momentarily, as I focused on the voice that pierced through the din like a lighthouse in a tempest. Heart racing, I strained to see the figure emerging from the shadows. A flicker of recognition ignited my pulse, an unexpected jolt of hope amid the suffocating fear. Who are you? I demanded, my voice trembling through clenched teeth, outwardly resolute but cowering within. It's me, Clara, the figure responded, stepping into the dim light, revealing a familiar face that had been absent for too long. Julie, my sister, with her striking blue eyes which mirrored my own, stood somberly, a sentinel amidst raging turmoil. I'm here to help. Help? Skepticism coated my voice, but beneath it, relief seeped through the cracks of my fear. You don't know what you're facing. Lookish, I know, she interrupted, her tone both fierce and gentle, as she locked eyes with our father, who looked momentarily taken aback. I'd rather face this nightmare together than turn my back again. The words dined with the ghosts of years lost, a fragile thread of unity sparking in a room heavy with discord. Shifting my gaze from Lucas to Julie, I couldn't ignore the pain etched in her features. The burden of our family's legacy weighed on her too. I brought something, she continued, reaching into the folds of her coat, her hand trembling slightly. My heart leapt instinctively, torn between anxiety and intrigue. You need to see it. Now isn't the time for games. Lucas bellowed, his patience thinning. The dangerous glint in his eyes echoed the darkness of his past, a specter I had learned from heartache to avoid. The storm of pride and power shimmered within him, hungry to reclaim what he felt he had lost. Shut up, Anna shot back bravely, stepping closer to Jamie, who stood frozen beside me, uncertainty mingling with fear. We're not going to let you take him. Not now. Not ever. Yet, with Lucas's attention diverted, hope warped into the space between us, echoing the urgency of the moment. Julie, what do you have? I urged, instinctively moving toward her as Ethan and Sophie continued their tumultuous struggle nearby, each discovery ripping through allegiance, loyalty fraying at the seams. Julie pulled a small, worn box from her coat, the surface marred by time, edges softened from years of being tucked away. I found this among our mother's things after she left. I didn't realize how important it could be until now. Her voice caught, and a shadow flickered across her face, a fleeting reminder of our past inflicted with grief. What is it? My voice rose as apprehension twisted my gut. I could feel time slipping through my fingers, a force more powerful than any argument Lucas could conjure. Memories, she replied softly, lifting the lid slowly. Hints of what we lost, insights into the truth that binds us. It could be the key. Inside the box lay fragile, time-worn photographs and letters, vestiges of a family we thought we understood, but had long crumbled under the weight of betrayal. As she began to sort through the fragile contents, I couldn't help but draw closer, trying to see past the layers of history that had both haunted and shaped us. The first photo showed a family gathered at some nameless picnic, the laughter frozen in that moment creating an aching warmth within, yet the edges smelled of ashes from battles fought too soon. Lucas stepped forward, anger simmering in his eyes. What are you doing with that? It has no power over me. But before I could respond, Jamie, emboldened by the exchange, stepped between us. It's not about you, Dad, he said, his voice straining against bravado. It's about Mom and Aunt Julie. It's about us. A wave of pride surged through me, battling against the fear that swelled in the room, a protective instinct blooming with ferocity. Jamie had caught a glimpse of the tangled truth. He was starting to comprehend and resist the grip of darkness that sought to mold him. Together, Julie said, her voice a steady flame, we can break these chains. We are a family, even if we've forgotten what that means. As she sifted through the letters, reading snippets aloud, my heart clenched. Words that held promise mapped out a route to healing, small glimpses of hope wrapped in warmth, still flickering like fireflies in the dark shadows of anguish. But just then, in the split second as the room began to shift, a deafening boom erupted from outside, a warning from our realisha thunderclap that rattled the walls. We stopped, trapped in a suffocating silence as the weight of the unknown pressed down upon us. What lay beneath Lucas' scowl? A hint of desperation. The storm had turned tenuous, shifting like sand beneath our feet. We were barreling down a path that could lead us either to restoration or absolute destruction. Suddenly, the door burst open and a figure silhouetted against the backdrop of chaos stepped into the room, an unexpected visitor with knowing eyes that scoured each face, ultimately landing on mine, a revelation bursting through the fabric of conflicting emotions. Clara, we don't have much time, this new presence said, weaving a thread of urgency through the gathering storm. You need to understand the truth about your family lineage. It is not what you think, it's far darker and much more powerful. And with that, my heart plunged, the edge of uncertainty deepening, spiraling into the unknown as the implication hung heavily in the air. Realization crashed over me like an unrelenting wave. The struggle was only just beginning, and more revelations awaited, just below the surface, threatening to unravel everything we believed to be true. The room pulsed with tension as I stood frozen, the weight of the figure's words curling around me like a noose. Clara, he urged, listen to me. Your family's true legacy is one of darkness. It's a lineage rooted in power that extends beyond this place, beyond the chaos. It's time to awaken the truth. The shadows danced across the walls, flickering menacingly as if mirroring the storm inside me. My heart raced. Who was this stranger daring to claim knowledge of our past? What do you mean? I finally managed, my voice edged with urgency, uncertain whether to trust this new disruptor of our strife. His jaw set in grim determination, he said, you possess abilities that you've yet to comprehend. But the darkness seeks to intoxicate the innocent, to mold Jamie into a vessel for chaos. A sharp intake of breath escaped me, hazel eyes darting instinctively to my son as he clung tightly to Anna's side, fear and confusion clouding his gaze. The love I felt for him bound me to this moment, igniting a spark of fierce protectiveness. You can't have him, I declared, each word breaking from the depths of my heart. Together we can harness this, the stranger insisted, but first, we need to face the truth of your bloodline, the price that must be paid to break the cycle. Before I could form a coherent response, the tension spiraled out of control, as Ethan and Sophie grappled with fierce passion, their own lies unraveling amidst our family's dense history. Clara, Ethan shouted, desperate. If you don't embrace who you are, you will doom us all. The pull of history distracted me for a fleeting moment, and in that instant, I felt a powerful surge, a drumming of my heart that resonated deep within me. I had endured despair, loss, and darkness. Hadn't I fought long enough to shelter my son from all of it? Lucas stepped forward, arrogance bleeding through the cracks of his bravado. You don't stand a chance against the legacy that binds us. It flows through your veins. His voice dripped with contempt. But in that moment, clarity washed over me, that fierce love I held for Jamie surging like a tidal wave, a force stronger than blood. You think fear will bind us? I yelled back. No. I choose to break this cycle. And suddenly, everything snapped into focus. It wasn't just my past that was unraveling. It was Jamie's future that I had to protect. I turned toward him, bending down so that our eyes met. Listen to me, Jamie. You are not a pawn. You are a force of light. No matter what they say, you have the power to choose your path. His eyes widened, uncertainty mingling with something else, possibility. My words ignited a flicker within him, a beacon against the shadows threatening to encroach. I believe in you, I insisted, allowing the warmth of my unwavering love to settle around us like armor. Then Julie stepped closer, reaching out to Jamie. You can redefine your family's narrative, Jamie. It's not just about your lineage. It's about who you choose to become. Grasping her hand, Jamie nodded slowly, a newfound resolve beginning to transform his demeanor, the fear beginning to ebb. The tides were shifting, and at that moment, I realized we were all interconnected not just by blood, but by the willingness to fight together against a legacy built on chaos. Together, I announced, feeling the collective strength of my family fueling my voice. We can break free of this curse. The electricity in the air charged with hope, threading through our hearts as we stood unified against our family's darkness. In no time, Ethan and Sophie's fights transformed into wild exchanges of chaos, their bond shattering before our eyes. The truth resonated in the air, a primal call for transformation, not just physically but emotionally, a reckoning that demanded every wrong be set to right. And then, in the eye of this tempest, Lucas gave a fierce laugh, dark and menacing. You really think unity can conquer power? You are all fools. But as he spoke, the energy shifted, a ripple of tension coursing through the room, a disturbance awakening. With Julie, Anna, and Jamie by my side, lifted in our combined strength, we poured all our love and light into a luminous force, the very essence of defiance against the darkness we had been. In unison, we stepped toward the impending confrontation. We are not afraid of you, I shouted, feeling the current of connection thrumming between us, lighting every shadow. The atmosphere crackled, and suddenly, a blinding light erupted, cascading through the restaurant like a bolt of clarity, bright enough to sear away every fragment of doubt. As it enveloped us, the forces of darkness recoiled, the edges of their malice blurring into nothingness, and one final surge of unity. I held Jamie close, and as we embraced, the blinding light encased us, washing over us, anchoring us together in a crucible of love and resilience, cutting through the chains of our twisted lineage. And in that moment, as the tumult began to dissolve around us, I realized what we had forged was more than just a confrontation, it was a rebirth. The final remnants of our family's darkness shattered like glass, echoing the promise of something new. We are stronger. Together, I whispered, feeling the entire universe align in that one moment before our world began to reform like dawn breaking through the darkest night. As we stepped into the emerging light, I knew that while the past would never fully release its grip, the future was ours to reclaim. My heart swelled as I looked into my son's eyes, both flickering with defiance and determination. In that sacred stillness, a truth echoed through my soul, reverberating with love and light. It was a promise. Our story will be different. It will be filled with love, not darkness. The journey had reshaped us, searing away the old narratives. As we moved forward, I knew the shadows would remain, but the light within us would guard against despair. And so we stepped into the world reborn, resilient and bright, together a family risen from the ashes, ready to embrace the beauty that awaited us beyond the shadows. Oh, this is the moment we choose, I murmured, standing shoulder to shoulder with those I loved, to illuminate the darkness. Love had prevailed, unearthing a legacy rewritten in hope, as we forged ahead, hand in hand, into the promise of tomorrow.